You're watching Joy in Our Town, and I'm your host, Letitia Nesby. It's hard to be self-sufficient when you're going through some kind of addiction, you don't make enough money, or you're just struggling in general. There are a variety of reasons why people are not being self-sufficient. In-house with us today, we have Derek Kirkendall and Jennifer Sheedy from Providence Network to tell us about becoming self-sufficient. Welcome to the show, you guys. Good morning.
Hi, Letitia. Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for being here. Derek, let's start with you. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and what you do at Providence Network.
We started in 1988 when a handful of mission-minded men decided they wanted to get involved in the inner city, and they befriended a pastor, Andy Cannon, and said, "What do you need in the city?" And he said, "A home." And it wasn't long before we had our first home. I'm Derek Kirkendall, the Executive Director of Providence Network, and we have been around for 25 years. We are celebrating 25 years of transforming lives from the inside out. We've served over 3,000 people whose lives have been touched by the experience of living in Christian community. I am a third-generation Coloradan. I live with my wife and 4 girls in the heart of the city. And I love what I do, which is to be the executive director of Providence Network.
Jennifer, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to Providence Network.
Well, it was about 6 years ago. I was about 30 years old and had always had a heart for people who struggled, had a heart for people who were in prison or kids coming out of detention centers. I'd worked in that sort of work, and then stumbled honestly upon Providence Network. That was God doing the leading, of course, and found myself falling in love, quite literally, with this ministry, and I am currently the director of Providence House.
Welcome, an invitation that expresses acceptance and hospitality. We use it often, usually when we're inviting a friend or family member into our home. But how much more compelling is it when we welcome a stranger? For over 27 years, Providence Network has been welcoming homeless strangers. As Matthew 25 says, "I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me." At Providence House and Joy House, our first step homes, we begin by providing a person's most basic needs: safety, security, a home, meals, comfort. The stranger that came to our door becomes a member of our family. Our 24/7 live-in staff members offer a real-life model for healthy, safe, loving relationships. As case managers, they focus on life skills training, career development, and spiritual nurturing. Counselors provide one-on-one and group counseling to meet individual needs of our adults and their children. Our homes are filled with men, women, and children who have lived through traumatic experiences and lifetimes filled with abuse and neglect. Healing takes time, but in the safety of our homes, they welcome the freedom that healthy relationships offer. We love celebrating residents and their milestones, and after 18 to 24 months in our first step homes, we're so excited to see them graduate. Truly, there are no words to describe it. They now have the opportunity to continue in their recovery in a safe, substance-free apartment community. Our next step homes, Victory House and Clausen House. Friendships continue as staff and fellow residents are available for accountability and encouragement. Here they raise their families in a healthy community, create traditions, pursue unique gifts, pray together, and support one another. The King will reply, "I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these, you did for me." Welcome home.
Well, tell us, why is it so important for transitional housing, and tell us about the umbrella of Providence Network and the different houses that you have.
So in the homelessness provider sector, there's kind of 3 major steps. There's emergency shelter, which is like the Union Gospel Missions. Come in out of the cold, sleep on a cot, have a warm meal, like real emergency need
Kind of
type
like Denver
stuff.
Rescue Mission?
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the next rung in service providers is transitional housing, and the idea there is it's usually 6 to 24 months staying in a home that has services wrapped around it. And then the last rung would be permanent affordable housing, which is once people have kind of gotten back on their feet, they have a job and they're staying sober, they have a chance to live in an apartment building that the rents are a little bit lower so that they can afford them. And so what we provide at Providence Network are that second and third rung on the ladder. The transitional program is, in our case, 2 years where you come in and you really get a holistic array of services. And then once you graduate from that level, you can move into one of our apartments longer term.
That's an amazing ministry. Jennifer, tell us, what would cause someone to need transitional housing?
It's a great question. Generally speaking, the term brokenness is what always comes to mind. Brokenness comes in many forms. Addiction would be one example. Providence House focuses a lot on.
I was drinking about half a gallon of vodka a day, and living in and out of motels. At one point, I lived in the woods for 6 months, and it's a very isolating disease. And I would say I talk to my parents once or twice a year during the peak of my addiction, and that breaks my heart. I finally hit rock bottom when I woke up one morning and I'm in a motel. The heat's been off. It's the middle of winter. I have a broken foot. I have bruises from head to toe. It was absolutely hopeless. The only way out was either suicide or drinking myself or using to death. There was no way to hide anymore that I had a problem. So I decided to scrape up the change to walk the block and a half to the payphone. I called my parents, and they got the call they'd always been praying for, that I wanted to get some help.
Many times as a civilian driving around the city, you see people on the side and you see signs and I need housing, I need help, I need shelter. And a lot of times you think, what got you to this point? Right. You did this to yourself. But you don't really think about the trauma that someone has incurred that brought them to that point. So as you talk about the second and third rung of Providence Network, Derek, tell us about that transitional housing piece. With the lack of affordable housing in Denver, why is it tough to make it?
Yeah, we're at an unprecedented time in Denver and in the Front Range right now. I read recently that last year over 100,000 people moved to Colorado, and most of those
100,000 moved to Colorado.
Moved into Colorado, and the most of them that was in the Denver metro area. And so it's kind of a law of supply and demand. There's a huge demand for housing, therefore the price of rents goes up, and the population that really carries the burden of that is the poor and the marginalized. And so those that are vulnerable are really suffering during this housing crisis right now in the city. And so there are many layers to homelessness, but it really does begin with the cost of just renting a place.
Just being able to afford a place to live.
Exactly.
So as we talk about the different houses, can you tell us the demographic for each of your homes?
So Providence Network owns and operates 5 properties in the city. And 3 of those are the transitional program, this idea of come in for 2 years, get back on your feet, and then move on into a more permanent situation. And we own then 2 apartment buildings where people can go and do that. So one of our transitional programs is called the Providence House, which Jennifer here
is the
leads,
director of, right?
The director of, and that specializes in single men and single women who are overcoming substance abuse, substance addiction, and who have become homeless as a result. Another home is Joy House, and that specializes in women with their children who are escaping domestic violence and are homeless as a result of domestic violence. Our third home that we have yet to open yet, but we do own it, and we hope to open in 2017, is called Silver Lining House, and it caters to young transitioning adults. So this is 18 to 25-year-olds that are living on the streets of Denver.
Wow. So as we talk about all of these brokenness and needing God in this time of need, no issue is too big or too small. You might see it as a big issue, but God can meet them where they are. Derek, what is Providence Network doing to display the love of God to these hurting people?
We also model ourselves after a family and a home. For a resident to come home at the end of the day, having a hard day at work, and to enter in and smell dinner cooking on the kitchen stove, and to have people come around them, put their arm around their shoulder and say, "How's your day? How you doing?" This is what sets us apart, and that's where I believe the real impact of our ministry comes in. Our staff live in the homes with the residents, so it's a very life-on-life, incarnational, mentoring existence. They're doing chores together, they're doing dishes together, they're living their lives together in a home modeled after really a family. And so that idea is promoting Jesus Christ in a relational way.
So maybe someone's at home watching and they know someone who might need the services of Providence Network. What are the requirements? Jennifer, let's talk about Providence House. What are the requirements for those single men and single women to be able to stay there for that 2 years?
Well, step number one is when we're interviewing, because we interview when we're bringing people in to the family, into the home. It's a really big decision when you decide to welcome somebody in. And honestly, a willingness to be humble is really the first thing. That's a requirement. A willingness, we say humility is teachability, and a willingness to let people into your life, a willingness to say, hey, I'm not designed to do this on my own. Jesus did not design us as human beings to figure everything out and to get whole and to get well and to get self-sufficient all on our own. So it's really, that's, I would say, the first requirement. And then from there, it's weekly meetings is a huge part. They meet every week with an accountability mentor. So for instance, I have ladies that I meet with. Each staff has residents they're assigned to walk with them through the whole 2 years, coaching, cheerleading, challenging. So that's a huge piece of it, the one-on-one counseling that we do. Then we have group meetings, we have group counseling. We have a house meeting every Tuesday night. It's my favorite night of the week. It's when the whole house with all the staff gets together and we celebrate sobriety birthdays, we share good news, we share bad news, we pray for each other, we worship.
So you're just loving them through the process.
Yes, yes.
You're loving them through the process. Tell us about a victory story.
A victory story. Ooh, how many there are.
I'm Tiffany Middleton. 16 or 17 years of addiction brought me to Prov. I was broken, I was homeless, I was selling myself on Colfax, and I got locked up in jail, and God said, I'm gonna get you sober, I'm gonna give you some clarity, I'm gonna bring your dad back into your life, and I found out about Providence House.
My name is Christopher Middleton. I came to Providence House after a long battle with alcohol. And a counselor suggested that maybe a faith-based program would help me out more. I came to one of the orientations and prayed on it, and I had been accepted. That was the first sign of hope I'd had in a really, really long time.
I could feel it as soon as I walked into that house, that God was there. And these people didn't even know me, and they hugged me when I first came into my interview. It's like, welcome, 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 welcome. And I remember the first night that I was there, I had this beautiful room, and freshly painted, and people that I didn't know had left me a card in like a welcome basket with coffee, and I sat there crying. I was crying, and I had a brand new set of sheets that Jen brought up for me. I'm like, are these mine? Like, what? These are mine? Who do I have to share this room with? Like, this is all for me? And it was wonderful.
Just kind of share with the viewers how they can get in touch with Providence Network, or if they know of a candidate that would be great for Providence Network. Tell us how we can do that.
Well, probably the simplest way is our website, providencenetwork.org. There's a lot of information there about how to further get involved with us, to get a hold of us. All of our homes are usually packed out, and so when openings come up, the way we advertise that is to put it on our call-in line. Weekly, we update that to say we have an opening, and here's a time where you could come and interview.
Awesome. Jennifer and Derek, thank you for joining us. What amazing ministry that you're doing at Providence Network.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Letitia Nesby. Be blessed and have a great day. You're watching Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Letitia Nesby. Many homeless people find it difficult to find and maintain a job. In studio today with us is David Warren. He is the Executive Director of Open Door Ministries. David, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's great to be with you. Thank you. Our mission is to show mercy, build community, and make disciples for Christ here in urban Denver. We do housing, we work with children and youth, we do outreach, and we do employment. And over the last couple of years, one of our big focuses has been employment. We started a print shop employing homeless people, but then we also started a 5-week job readiness training program called Open Door to Success.
Let's talk about Open Door Ministries in the facet where you're the strongest, or helping homeless people find jobs. Let's talk about that. So how is helping people find long-term sustainable employment a factor in getting people out of homelessness?
Well, a lot of homeless people do work. Some people maybe don't realize that homeless people work, but oftentimes they're in like day labor or temporary jobs, the kind of jobs that really don't get you out of homelessness. They just kind of keep you in that cycle. And so our goal is to help them find long-term sustainable jobs that are going to help them move to that next level. And you know, there's just the practical aspect of when you have a regular paycheck, then you can start working on, you know, paying that rent bill, your medical bills, your electricity. And so when you get that long-term job, it reinforces a new sense of purpose that you have in yourself, a new sense of hope. And so that helps them get off the streets as well.
The demographic of homelessness is probably even larger than we even see, because really to the person driving on the street, it's the person standing there with the sign, but that may not be the case.
Right.
It's the couch surfer, it's the people who are doing the day labor, things like that.
Right.
So what challenges do the homelessness face when looking for a job?
Well, that's a huge question because there are so many challenges, as you can imagine. First of all, there's, you know, especially for the person that's literally living on the street, there's some significant barriers just right off the bat with hygiene, cleanliness, clothing. You know, if you need to go for an interview and you've been wearing the same clothes for a week, are you going to want to go and do an interview in those clothes? You know, probably not. And then some of the other things that, you know, we would think about would be addictions. You know, if you're, you know, struggling with alcoholism or drug addiction, that's going to be a barrier for getting into a job or into an interview even. Then a mental illness. There is a lot of mental illness with the homeless, and this ranges from a lot of different types of mental illness.
Right.
It's not always what we think of. Just could be depression, could be anxiety, or those kind of things that are kind of hidden behind the scenes, but they're very real in people's lives, and they keep them from going to get that job. And then another big barrier is legal issues, felonies. You know, somebody has a felony, they have to check that box that says I'm a felony, or there's a background check. And then you put all those things together, and a person that hasn't been working for quite a while, you know, once they've been out of work for say a year or two or more, then they lose confidence. I know a guy who would get an interview, he would go to the place where the interview was, but he would be so nervous that he wouldn't even go into the interview, he would just leave.
Oh no.
And so that's an obvious barrier as well.
So say I'm a homeless person, I come to Open Door Ministries. What are one of the first couple steps that you're going to get me to working?
Okay. Well, we have a number of different things that we can do, but one of our main programs, we call it Open Door to Success, And Open Door to Success is a couple things, but our main thing is a 5-week job readiness training class that we put someone into.
I offer a job readiness training program with a special support system that helps the participants get a job and keep it long term. Sometimes people come into this classroom, they're on the verge of suicide. They are so desperate. So when they come into this class and they take these principles to heart and they get a job, it is an amazing opportunity to be a part of that and to see what God's doing in their hearts.
The Open Door to Success empowers these individuals with practical and spiritual resources to enrich their lives, to give them the resources they need to obtain and hold jobs, and to become the kind of people that they want to be but have a hard time being because of their situation.
We are simply trying to reach down into their lives and help them to see what they're really capable of.
Once a person, an Open Door Ministry candidate, finds a job, what's the challenge of keeping that job?
Yeah. So keeping a job is a real challenge, and there's a lot of reasons a person would lose a job. So we really work on integrity and moral character. So even basic things like showing up on time, working hard all the way through the day. Heard some stories where people get a job, they go to work for a few days, and then they take a day off. You know, and they were like, man, I was working hard, you know, I deserved that day off. Well, the employer wasn't too keen on that, and so they let them go, so they immediately lost the job. So teaching people how to, you know, work hard and then also get along with their other fellow employees, that can be a challenge. So good communication skills, conflict management, all of those kinds of things. So those are things that we work on in the class. So in addition to like the basic things like interviewing skills, resume writing, things like that, we really get more into the character issues. And what we've seen is that people come in, they're very hesitant, they're very nervous, they're not job ready at all. And when they leave after that 5 weeks, you can tell like they've become a changed person.
It's like night and day.
It's like night and day. The way they look, the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they act. It's like they have new confidence, they have new hope, and it's really exciting to see that.
I've challenged myself here and succeeded. What else could I challenge myself at and also succeed at? There was a lot to take away from the program, and I will still probably take away for years to come.
Open Door to Success gives people an entryway to independence. As soon as you have that job, you're able to take care of yourself, but you're able to give back to other people as well.
When we talk about Open Door Ministries, how do I get into your program?
Well, the best way is to just show up. We're right down by Colfax and Marion, so 1567 Marion. People can come by, sign up, or they can just give us a call, find us on the website, and come down. But you know, most of the people we're working with are right on the streets, so for them, they just show up.
They're just showing up?
Yeah.
So, David, once I get into your program, I know you work with different sister ministries throughout the Denver metro area to then provide housing for them, because on a job application, everyone asks for an address. What do we do? What does Open Door Ministry do about that?
Well, Open Door actually has some transitional housing as well, and then we have other ministries that we refer people to for housing. And that's a challenge. Sometimes we've even allowed people to use our address as a, you know, if we have a relationship with them, as an address where they could get some mail. One of the good things these days is that a lot of homeless folks have cell phones, or they can get an access to a cell phone. Getting, as you can imagine, before cell phones, getting in touch with somebody that came for an interview that was homeless was almost impossible because there's no permanent phone to get a hold of. So also a lot of things are done online now.
Right.
In fact, one of the things we started doing, because paper resumes are so almost outdated, and also for a homeless person, it's tough for them to keep a paper resume nice and, you know, clean and everything. So we started giving them a little flash drive, which they're, you know, so cheap, so they could just put their resume on a flash drive, take that flash drive with them to the interview, and then they could say, here's my resume. They could print it out right there, and that way they always had their resume right with them. So, yeah.
Do you see life changes in a significant way after someone completes the program?
If I've needed someone, Open Doors has been there for me. I think I definitely needed a positive person or people in my life, and I dropped everyone I knew before, and now I have like almost role models in my life that I didn't have before that helped me and talked to me through things in my own life. And I'm learning a really cool skill and trade on top of it.
Open Door has given me the opportunity to build my relationship with God. It's a faith-based operation, you know, and just really hear your calling more. And eventually, hopefully, you know, you're getting on into your mission, you know, developing and building your life with Christ.
So when people come here, do they ever reach back? Some of your participants who have become successful, now they have a job, now they have an address, they've gone through transitional housing, and they are living the dream or the purpose that God put in them.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that they come back and go, I want to tell my story?
We do. In fact, it's fun because after we do a class, then we have a graduation. It's, you know, we just do it there at Open Door, but it's a fun little ceremony that we take people through. But it's fun when the former graduates come back and they want to cheer on the next group of people. And several of the former grads have come back, and you know, they're dressed in nice clothes now, and they're congratulating the new graduates. And some of those people already have jobs even before they graduate. So that's fun to see them come back and help others.
Well, as you think about Open Door Ministries, what if someone is at home and knows a candidate for your program? How would they get in touch with you?
Best way probably is to find out our information online, odmdenver.org, or give us a call at the 303-830-2201 number. Just contacting us through the phone is probably the best way.
So as we close, look into that camera and speak to that person who might be coming to Open Door Ministries. Give them a little hope.
Okay. There is hope. We can lead you through a process where you can regain your confidence, where Christ can work in your life, and where you can get a job. It's exciting. You don't have to be intimidated. God wants to do great things in your life.
David, thank you for joining us on the show. What great ministry you're doing, touching people, changing their lives through the help of Jesus Christ. Thank you for watching Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Letitia Nesby. Make it a great day.